Hi, I'm Jarrod LeBlanc, and you're watching Maine Freedom Watchdogs. This week we'll tackle a host of issues that affect our freedom here in Maine. But first, let's start off in Greece. Historically, totalitarian government comes in during periods of economic crisis, and U.S. congressmen have said that what's going on in Greece can happen here. So what is going on in Greece? The Greek government invested in the toxic derivatives of an international banking giant, Goldman Sachs. Greece plans to honor the fraudulent debts. Their plan includes lower wages and higher taxes. The reaction of Greek citizens has been a month of rioting in which police and protesters clash daily, and the airports have been shut down now for over a week. Over 90% of Americans had the good sense to oppose the fascist bank bailouts, of which Goldman Sachs received billions.
It really opened my eyes. What you found out, the bailout was just another term for government takeover, and that's a basic form of fascism. I mean, Mussolini took over the railroads and got them to run on time. What's the difference? There's no difference, and call it what it is.
Americans should fire everyone that voted for the bank bailouts, period. Olympia Snowe voted for the bank bailout. Susan Collins voted for the bank bailout. Now, to give credit where it's due, Maine Congressman Mike Michuad stood up for Maine citizens and voted against the bank bailout scam. I'm going to give him credit a second time as well. Unlike Maine senators, Mike Michuad also stood up for our constitutional right to privacy by voting against President Obama's renewal of the completely un-American Patriot Act. In 2008, out of 783 warrantless searches authorized by the Patriot Act, the FBI admits there were only 3 that were even related to terrorism. Most were for victimless crime prosecutions. So thanks to Michuad for voting against that. So why would Mike Michuad burn us by voting for the current health reform bill? It really is the worst of all possible options. It includes the mandate that people like me who don't have health insurance would be forced to go out and buy health insurance from a private, greedy, for-profit insurance company. The government demanding that I buy a private product is fascism, according to Mussolini, and he knew a thing or two about fascism. Concerned Mainers visited Michuad's office in Waterville this week, urging him to vote no to the current health reform bill.
We got together here to make sure that Mike Michuad and anyone else who is listening understands that we're not happy with what's going on. We're going to stand up for what we believe is right, and we're not going to give up. We're going to keep coming back. We're going to keep fighting. We're not going to forget. We're not going to get tired.
Exactly what all you anti-federalists want, the protection of your rights.
Yeah. I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be standing out here. I'd rather be at home sitting on the deck drinking a glass of wine, but instead I have to come out here and fight for this country so that my kids will have that luxury.
It's really not about healthcare at all. It's about controlling us. If people were to read the bill, they'd realize that there are all kinds of items in that bill that have nothing to do with healthcare.
Remember when Maine started the Real ID Rebellion? Becoming the first state to reject that fascist national ID card? I've never been so proud to be a Mainer as when our state senators voted 34-0 in rejecting Real ID. Well, here's another nasty part of the healthcare bill that the mainstream media doesn't talk about. It's being used as a Trojan horse to force non-compliant states like Maine to accept a Real ID, a national ID card. This week, the United States House of Representatives passed another bill that would require everyone to have a national ID card, this time in order to work. The federal government won't even protect our borders in order to deal with our illegal immigration problem, yet they'll use it as an excuse to make us carry our papers around like a bunch of Nazis. Congressman Ron Paul immediately called shenanigans.
It's always for good purposes. Everything is for good, and they're going to get rid of illegal immigration. They're going to find the criminals, but they're also going to monitor every single person, everything they do. It's sort of this idea of why not have cameras every place on every street corner, because we'll catch the bad guy. Well, why don't they have cameras in our house in case there's child beating or wife beating? I mean, that's when one thing leads to another. You either believe in freedom or you don't.
Well, if the health care bill does pass in Washington, we still have one last hope to avoid it here in Maine. Some of the candidates for Maine governor said at a recent debate that they would not implement the national health care law in Maine. So if you don't want Washington's health care plan to come to Maine, there is still hope if you vote for a governor that is willing to reject a national health care bill. The governor's debate was held by Maine's Young Republicans.
I'm in the Republican Party, and I'm involved in Maine Young Republicans because I think that the older folks in our community are excellent people to be running our party, but they're not going to be around for forever.
The GOP hopefuls also discussed jobs.
And I feel very strongly that we've got a tremendous natural resource base here in the state, and we've got to unleash it.
We have to reduce the capital gains tax. Right now we charge 8.5% against any capital that's invested here. It's no wonder that we don't have capital investment going on in Maine the way we had in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s when they were building paper mills and shoe factories.
Our taxes drive people with money out of the state of Maine.
The guy at the Ritz-Carlton in Paris ought to be calling her and saying, I want a woman from University of Maine Tourism School because that's the best in the world to manage my hotel.
I mean, I support tourism greatly, but really what we need is industry. We need manufacturing, and I really believe that if we quit on manufacturing in this state, we're quitting on Maine.
Per capita income in the city of Waterville, which I am currently mayor of, was just under $33,000 in 1980. Today, in 2010, it's 26,000. We had the jobs. We lost the jobs. How did we lose the jobs? We let a government get out of control. We let a regulatory system get out of control. Instead of being a regulatory oversight group, they've become a regulatory control group.
In Augusta this week, there was debate over a bill that would allow police to take away people's guns when responding to domestic disputes. Now let's connect some dots here. According to the National Partnership for Women and Families, who have a large influence on prominent Maine legislators, 1 in 3 women will make a domestic abuse charge at some point in their life. By that logic, 1 in 3 Maine households will have their guns taken away if we allow police to take away guns when responding to domestic abuse accusations. Our Maine Constitution is very clear. We have the right to bear arms, and that right shall never be questioned. Apparently, some people in Augusta today feel that if they get enough votes, they can go ahead and do it anyway. So much for defending our Constitution, which is the one thing that they all take an oath to do. The federal government wants to pass a no-fly, no-buy law, which means that without any evidence and without making any charges, not only can they restrict your travel by putting you on a no-fly list, but they could also take your gun away at the same time. All studies show that communities with high rates of private gun ownership have lower crime rates. If you take away guns from law-abiding citizens, you're only making it safer for criminals and tyrannical governments. At the governor's debate, several of the candidates mentioned that our government tends to get in the way of progress here in Maine with burdensome and unnecessary over-regulation. I couldn't agree more. Sometimes the best thing that they could do, really, is to just get out of the way. The latest case in point that I can see, Maine citizens have twice now voted to leave medicinal marijuana users alone. The spirit of those votes is so simple. Let them have their medicine. Let it be easy for them to get it. We don't care. It grows anywhere, any time of the year. It's easy to grow. Almost anyone can grow it. But instead of getting out of the way and letting nature run its course, many people in Augusta want to have control over this medicinal plant. Let's face it, some people just don't like marijuana, and they really don't like that we keep passing these laws in Maine. Well, too bad. I don't particularly like marijuana either. I don't use it myself. But here's the thing. I don't believe in selective freedom. I agree with Ron Paul. You either believe in freedom or you don't. I agree with John F. Kennedy, who said that tolerance implies no lack of conviction for your own beliefs, but rather it condemns the persecution of another person's beliefs. Kennedy. Now there was a president. Good conservative Democrat, strong on freedom and liberty. He really stood up to the bankers instead of just pretending to. Kennedy started the process of abolishing the Federal Reserve shortly before his death. Just imagine what our country might be like today. Imagine what our world might be like today. Instead, folks, we do find ourselves living in strange times, and it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent or green. We better figure out a way to hang together as Americans, or we certainly will hang separately. This has been Maine Freedom Watchdogs. Thank you for watching, and let's keep each other free.